Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was always the slice-of-life, non-serious cousin compared to its predecessor, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. After all, GX was about teenagers navigating high school, slacking off class, and forming new friendships. Or that was the case until Season 3. You see, if you stuck around until this late in the show, you'd have seen just how dark things got. Zane having a ticking time bomb in his chest, real lives being put up for stake, and most importantly, a villain so uncomfortable, she became the darkest of the entire series. And that's exactly who I want to focus on. Because Ubel hints at something far deeper, a hidden thread connecting the show to real life, Jungian psychology. Sounds out of whack, but once you see the signs and connections, this theory doesn't just seem convincing, it starts to feel undeniable. That this wasn't a coincidence, it was intentionally put there. But before we dive in, let's briefly go over the man whose theory GX seems to be drawing from, Carl Jung. Jung is best known for his concept of the collective unconscious, a shared psychic layer beneath our personal psyche. This collective unconscious holds archetypes, universal symbols, themes, and figures that appear across cultures and stories. These archetypes represent fundamental human experiences and patterns of behavior, which we personally can come to embody. In Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Season 2, this idea already shows up, with the use of arcana, the tarot cards, which serve as major symbols throughout the season. Tarot cards are classic representations of archetypes, and Jung himself often referenced them in his work. A tarot card deck contains 22 major arcana, each representing key archetypes: the Fool, the Magician, the Devil, all universal patterns of human behavior which show up again and again across cultures. But the card I want to focus on is this, the Emperor, as it closely mirrors Jaden's own character. You see, Jaden shows all the core traits of the Emperor archetype. He embodies youthful leadership. He's fiercely competitive, with his self-worth being tied to winning duels. And while his goofy, aloof personality might seem lighthearted, it actually masks a stoic, focused warrior. Think about it, Jaden's detached and aloof wit consistently allows him to focus and even throw off his opponents. In many ways, Jaden is the perfect young prince on a journey to become the Emperor. This journey of embodying archetypes, it's what Jung called individuation. The process of becoming a whole and balanced self. It's when a person confronts every aspect of who they are, including the hidden or darker sides. But before Jaden could see the potential of this archetype, others in the show have already recognized the pattern inside of him. Take Sartorius, who knew if he were brought to the side of the light of destruction, they could end the world. Or Chancellor Shepard, who throughout the entire series is hell-bent on testing Jaden, as if he knows his development is needed for the salvation of others. But when Shepard brings in Professor Viper, it marks more than another test. It's the trigger point. The moment Jaden is forced to confront more than just a tough duel. Here, his past trauma rises to the surface. Unconscious structures begin to scream for recognition. And most pressingly, his own hidden dark side begins to emerge. At first, it's subtle, like when Cyrus turns to Jaden for advice, afraid of becoming ruthless under Viper's new disclosure duels. But Jaden isn't concerned and brushes him off, something that even surprises Jesse. But this all escalates with the introduction of the Dimension Ward arc. While searching for Jesse, Jaden recklessly drags his friends across a perilous landscape, missing vague leads and putting them in danger. The clearest example comes when he encounters a hidden group of humans. They warn Jaden not to leave and search until nightfall, as the monsters outside would detect their hideout. But Jaden ignores their warnings, leaving, and ultimately causing their deaths. So what exactly is being shown? Well, what we're seeing here is the flip side of Jaden's best qualities. His courage twists into recklessness. His stoic calmness turns into emotional detachment and blindness. This is Jaden's shadow fully revealing itself. The Jungian shadow, meaning all the repressed traits, drives, and instincts we try to hide. If left unconscious, these traits don't just sit dormant, they fester, they grow, and in extreme cases, they take over completely. And as Jaden approaches a door which will show the ultimate consequences of unexamined shadow traits, someone else is lurking in the darkness. Someone from Jaden's unconscious. Someone who won't just worsen his descent into madness, but may also end up being the key to his salvation. Ubel first appears in a dream. Jaden finds himself alone at Dawl Academy, now a barren desert. His friends appear as fragile sand figures, crumbling at his touch, before Ubel reveals her monstrous eye. The dream seems to be foreshadowing Jaden's oncoming guilt, but this isn't the first time Jaden's dreams have been invaded. No. The series reveals that Ubel was behind Jaden's childhood nightmares all along. And before she was sent into space where she haunted Jaden, Ubel was a possessive Dawl spirit who isolated him during childhood, and in her return, she exhibits many of the same traits. She's emotionally volatile, manipulative, even goading Professor Viper to walk off a cliff following an apparition of his son. She also exhibits a victim complex, constantly reminding Jaden of his abandonment. But most prominently, she's obsessive and wishes to once again isolate Jaden all to herself. So what is the show trying to tell us about her? Well, it seems to me Ubel is a symbol of the anima. The anima is the personification of all feminine traits in a man. Her possessiveness, her manipulation, her victim complex. These are dark analogues of feminine traits which make up a man's own hidden feminine side of the soul. But what confirms this connection is her appearance in dreams. As Jung describes, she appears in dreams, visions, and fantasies in many forms. As a rule, she is of exotic or symbolic appearance. A dancer, a witch, a priestess, a young girl, or an old crone. She represents the feminine side of a man, especially his inner relationship with the unconscious. And, if not integrated, she manifests as a dangerous and misleading figure. A siren, a witch, or a sorceress, who seduces and leads the man into confusion and emotional chaos. Does Ubel's monstrous yet seductive quality not speak directly to this idea? Even her being shot into space feels symbolic, as if Jaden's banished his anima deep into the unconscious, where it waits, unheard but still alive. It's only in season 3, as Jaden inches closer to forming a unified identity, that she resurfaces, demanding to be recognized. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Yes, the anima may appear as a monstrous banshee when viewed from a primitive or unconscious standpoint, but she also holds within her the positive analogues of her nature. Obsessiveness can transform into nurturing love. Emotional volatility becomes deep empathy and emotional intelligence. A victim complex, when integrated, turns into sensitivity to pain, a capacity for compassion, forgiveness, and healing. Even Ubel's design speaks to what Jaden ultimately needs. She resembles a Baphomet-like figure, combining masculine and feminine traits, both bestial and human, angelic and demonic. This visually foreshadows the balance of Jaden's unconscious, that is, when she's allowed to be integrated. For a strongly masculine figure like Jaden, these traits are essential. They soften the hardness, balance the extremes, and offer a pathway from total ego domination or shadow possession. But before that integration can happen, Jaden must first face a trial, a kind of baptism of fire, one that forces him to confront the darkest parts of himself, and prepare him for his fate. Jaden is looking for Jesse when he comes across a fortress. Here he discovers the rest of his friends have been captured, and that he must engage in a life or death duel to free them. Except, every time he attacks, one of his friends loses their life. This of course means all his friends perish, but to make things worse, it's revealed Jesse was already dead. Jaden's reckless actions caused the ultimate loss, and a deep sense of guilt. But that guilt forced a change. The weight of it was too heavy. Jaden couldn't bear to carry it anymore. So he transformed into something that didn't need to carry this guilt. Jaden becomes the Supreme King. The Supreme King is part of the shadow side of Jaden's archetype. The innate shadow aspects of his personality take over. His competitive spirit has turned into unbridled power without moral restraint. Jaden's previous emotional detachment is now a total lack of empathy. His humorous demeanor is now arrogance. The overemphasis of his previous traits is a defense mechanism. It allows him to avoid his inner guilt and even see it as unimportant. But it's also easy to mistake one thing. Jaden's transformation isn't completely a bad thing. You see, in Jaden's previous life, his father tells a human Ubel that Jaden's destiny is to become the Supreme King. But why? I thought the Supreme King was just the evil side of Jaden. Well, even after Jaden's term of destruction as this figure, despite his guilt over what he did, when he returns to normal, he realizes he must become the Supreme King once again to stop Ubel. That's because the Supreme King not only contains some of Jaden's negative traits, but it also contains some of his most powerful. As the Supreme King, Jaden wields his inner strength without hesitation or fear. He develops an unbreakable will, one that no opponent can override. It's the full force of the Emperor archetype coming to life. Discipline, control, and authority over the self. But this final formation of identity, this embodiment of the Emperor, is only half the story. Because like any hyper-masculine pattern, it becomes destructive if left unchecked. It needs to be offset by what's found in the feminine side of the soul, the anima. When Jaden faces Ubel, he's given the chance to unite with an unconscious part of himself, the missing piece in his path toward individuation. But it's crucial to understand, this moment only carries meaning because of the dark transformation he underwent beforehand. Without that trial, he wouldn't have been ready to face her, let alone integrate her. Cause despite Ubel being the missing piece in his individuation process, approaching the anima is something that is not to be tackled lightly. As Jung himself warned against, engaging with the anima before your ego is fully developed is dangerous. When your ego isn't strong, you can't meet the anima directly. You get more swept up by it. That's not integration, that's possession. Which is exactly what Jaden would face if he had not fully developed. But with a stable sense of self, once you know who you are, you can face those unconscious traits without misidentifying them as your entire self, lest you be consumed by them. With the ego unified, you can see the anima not as something chaotic, but as something symbolic. Not just emotional volatility, mood swings, or cruelty, but intuition, empathy, imagination, and connection to the deeper self. Jaden had to become the Supreme King, to claim his power and confront his shadow, before he was ready to meet Ubel as an equal. And because he did, he doesn't lose himself, he finds himself. And that's exactly what occurs. As Jaden grows into the door, he begins to see Ubel as more than an evil monster. He sees the redemptive side of himself, which is why he doesn't defeat her. He ends by fusing with her. To close, it's important to clarify a few things. Some might still feel that applying Jung's analytic psychology to GX is a stretch. But even before this arc begins, the show seems to have already woven clear references to it. From the use of tarot and arcana in season 2, a direct symbol of archetypes, to Professor Banner literally being a homunculus, a concept rooted in alchemy, itself deeply tied to Jungian thought. More importantly, the pieces fit together almost too well. Ubel looks and behaves exactly like an out-of-control anima, a seductive, chaotic figure who invades dreams, distorts the hidden feminine within a man. And Jaden's literal fusion with her, after embodying the Supreme King, a title that sounds eerily like a card from a tarot deck, only deepens this parallel. But none of this is to say the show is reduced to psychodrama. It's not. These characters are not merely representations of Jung's psychological model, though they definitely seem to be intertwined. Thanks for watching. Oh, and if you want me to break down the entirety of season 3 or another arc, drop a like and subscribe.